Hello again. Getting into the wee hours of the morning. Well, actually, it's no longer morning. But why don't we just carry on like good troopers? All right. Now, I read you the footnotes. Now, here's right below it. These actions subvert the principles of the Declaration of Independence and destroy the governing authority of the United States Constitution. Together we can reverse this trend towards collectivism, communism, socialism, all those isms we hate, and uphold the principles of property enshrined in the Constitution, which should forever reign supreme. B. Constitutional provisions. 1. Our Constitution for the United States is the supreme law of the land and has supremacy over decisions of legislature. Article 6, Clause 1 through 3. There can be no rule making or legislation which will abrogate the rights secured by our Constitution. Miranda versus Arizona 384 U.S. 436, 491. It was in 1966, the ruling. No right granted or secured by the Constitution of the United States can be impaired or destroyed by a state enactment, whatever may be the source from which the power to pass such enactment may have been derived. The nullity of any inconsistent with the Constitution is produced by the declaration that the Constitution is the supreme law. Connolly versus Union Sewer Pipe Company, 184 U.S. 540, 558, 1902. 2. Our people of the United States are guaranteed the unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The three great rights are bound together as to be essentially one right. To give a man his life but deny him his liberty is to take from him all that makes his life worth living. To give him his liberty but take from him the property which is the fruit and badge of his liberty is to still leave him a slave. George Sutherland, Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court, 1921. The rights of the people to their property shall not be violated without probable cause, without due process, and without just compensation. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. Constitution, Fourth Amendment. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall property be taken for public use without just compensation. Constitution, Fifth Amendment. The enumeration of the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Constitution, Ninth Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Constitution, 10th Amendment. All right. Next section. Energy independence. Take a puff, excuse me. The Creator has supplied the earth with an abundance of energy sources. Abundant energy is the foundation of all technological advancement. A high and improved quality of life is totally dependent on an abundance of energy. The Constitution does not grant the federal government the power to regulate, control, or establish a national policy for the generation and distribution of energy. Within the United States there is nearly unlimited supply of coal, oil, natural gas, and hydroelectric energy sources. Carbon dioxide generated from these sources is not an environmental pollutant, but is in fact an essential and vital element of life, enhancing life rather than negatively impacting it. True, carbon dioxide plants live on it. That's what they breathe instead of oxygen and nitrogen like we do. And they give out oxygen in return. So they purify. There are air scrubbers. I can't put it any more bluntly than that. And we're cutting them down in the rainforest so fast just so that these people can buy a pair of designer jeans made by almost slave labor in other third world nations for pennies. The extraction, transportation, and processing of energy resources, our property, is fully our constitutional right. So, too, is the production of nuclear energy. Some convincingly argue that nuclear energy is the safest, cleanest, and least expensive source of energy, and that nuclear waste can be disposed of at the reactor site. All right. D. The Wildlands Project, conservation of biological diversity. And again, I got to point out, you need this document, because in this next paragraph is a link for a map that's going to show you all the lands that have been seized by the federal government. So here we go. D. The Wildlands Project, conservation of biological diversity. The United States has assumed control of lands within several of the western states far beyond the authority granted to it by the Constitution for the United States. See map. The map is highlighted for a link. Hyperlink. When the federal government assumes control, it does so by calling these seized lands such names as the Wildlands Project, heritage areas, land management, wolf and bear reintroduction, and rails to trails, conservation easements, open space, and many more. Each of these programs is designed to make it more difficult and expensive to live on the land. Live on the land. Oh, that's a good one. Today I'm seeing where they're wanting to outlaw public fishing. So now it's going to be illegal pretty soon for you to catch a fish so you can eat. You'll be breaking the law. Like that. I don't know whether Robin Hood's based on fact or fiction. But it's almost the same damn thing. Where, you know, he's living out in the woods, and anything he kills is property of the king. So pretty much here, it's getting to that same ludicrous point of that, what I think is fantasy. I don't know if it's based on real facts or not, but to me it seems fantasy, where the king owns everything. In our case, well, you could call him a king, the way he acts, and as far as usurpation of powers, no different. Anyway, the federal government has established and expanded parks, preserves, recreation, and wilderness areas with no regard for the economic impact, loss of livelihood, and custom and culture of residents of the area. These type of projects are established often without the direct consent of the legislature of the state or the people of the community, and without concern for the impact on the communities. For example, the economy of several of small communities of the Hells Canyon National Recreation Area is being heavily impacted. These residents of many similarly situated communities are suffering greatly when the federal government takes several million acres of land for use in these wilderness projects. In these projects, among other things, the watershed areas will no longer be under the guidance and care of the citizens of those communities. Well, I hate to tell you this, but the government has federalized all land that water is on, or will be on, or is underground. So we're well on our way, folks. I think this will be my last presentation for the evening, and I'll pick up later on today. Again, thank you for your forbearance.